together. We change the world.
Hello everyone, it's your boy Theo here with a guide to Snowverflow Shinryu edition. Some disclaimer before we start. This guide is meant for players that already have a basic understanding of what Snowverflow is. If you're not sure what the tech is, I highly recommend checking out my old Snowverflow guide. The foundation is still the same, but some setup is different for Shinryu. I'll link the video guide on the top right corner there and in the description below. First up, how is Snowverflow different in Shinryu? Now, we have a hidden 80% limiter on Brave Refund and Brave Retain. We can no longer rely on Snow alone for Refund. Retain becomes an extra mandatory layer that we need to bring when setting up Snowverflow. Brave Retain, unfortunately, is quite a rare feature in DFFOO. If your BT character has Brave Retain mechanics on their own, such as Jacked, Terra or Cloud of Darkness, then you're good to go. Check out the Tonberry Troupe or Dissidia Compendium to see if your character has natural retain or not. If you don't have it, then I have to be a bringer of bad news. You must use Iroha's LD call. There is no substitute for Iroha as of making this guide. Next up, relevant stats. The pool of relevant stats is still similar for the Shinryu era. Max Brave and Gain Brave Overflow are still king in enabling Snowverflow. I would suggest farming Max Brave artifacts for this. Even M Brave C50 combo for some characters that have it, like Garnet or Camlanor. For damage optimization, incorporating a launch will probably be the biggest damage boost. Launch or knockback provides 2 extra dumps for each attack, while still adding a big 20% HP damage multiplier at the end. HP damage up is the next most important stats to look out for. It's usually easier to stack these stats than launch, because we can get this effect from the many calls, be it in the debuff form like Laguna or Kurasame, or in a buff form like Ram or Freya calls. The final stats, if your character has a lot of split damage AoE HP attack, then Stolen Brave Overflow can be an important stats in boosting damage. So characters like Garnet will want tons and tons of Stolen Brave Overflow. Otherwise, we don't really need to go out of our way to stack Stolen Overflow. Compared to the other stats, this is the least important one. Still good, but do prioritize the others first. Next section is calls. These are some useful calls for Snowverflow. Party-wide calls affect everyone. These are generally useful for all situations and especially important if you're attempting double Snowverflow. Kate Sith and Porum are highlighted because these two are the best enablers in DFFOO with their whopping 30% gain overflow. But from this list, Lilyset is hands down my favorite call, followed by Laguna, because they offer relevant stats while still boosting HP damage. Honorable mention calls are ones that have only one stats boost, but can be unexpectedly useful in some conditions because of their long duration. Selfie is bolded because you can use her as a friend unit and have her cast EX before she leaves. This gives your party an extra 20% gain and stolen overflow for 3 turns. Very useful in some setups. Selfish calls affect only the caller. These calls usually have higher stats boost, and you'll want to equip these on your BT face character. Honorable mention to Sid Reigns as a launch enabler and Prish for that double Brave hits. Prish call has excellent synergy with Brave Retain or Iroha's call. The double Brave hits and stolen overflow effects allow you to retain higher amount of Brave, making it easier to maintain Snowverflow while boosting damage at the same time. Now for the most important part, how to build a Snowverflow team. This is my thought process when building a team, and I think this is the fastest, most consistent way to get it going. The first step is to not worry too much at the beginning. You bring Snow, bring your BT DPS and your support. Slap in the calls you want to bring, and don't worry about unequipping any passives at this point. The intention is not to kill the enemy, but we want to know how high of a refund we can get. For this example, I'm using Tidus, Quistis and Snow with Rains, Porum and Iroha calls. Quistis here is just to make it easier for me to record, because I can delay the enemies. Just press start and immediately activate all your calls and attempt to Snowverflow straight away. No need to wait for force time. So this is the number we want from this setup. Tidus refund value is at 157k. So our build will now revolve around this particular number. So I have made this simple chart right here. It's just a HP damage limit chart that translates percentages into max brave cap value used in fights. I'm using 40% as the minimum because that's the value of a maxed out Ultima weapon. If you are using a low HP cap, then every 5% is roughly a difference of 5k max brave cap. Now let's take that Tidus refund again, 157k. For Snowverflow to be active, the refund must exceed the character's HP damage cap. So for this example, the max we can go is 55%. The team I'm using in the sample run has Tidus with Ultima weapon and blue armor, making his HP cap at 65%. If we try to continue the earlier run, we can see that Snowverflow has failed. My refund is lower than my cap, so I'll just be doing normal damage. Now that we know what to go for, we can start unequipping some stuff. The unequip priority list. There are several factors in the game that can affect a character's HP damage cap. I'll be sorting them now in order of least important to the more important ones. First up is armor passives. Your support's armor and then the attacker's armor passives. These are usually your largest source of unequipable HP damage cap up. Next is force extensions. This is a new feature and some extension can give variable HP damage cap up to the character's abilities. That is S1, S2, LD and EX. The values are different for each character and can range from 5% to 20%. The last unequipped priority is Ultima weapon, and this is where I have a different opinion than my initial guide. You don't want to unequip Ultima weapon if at all possible. Yes, it does increase the HP cap at a very high 40% increase at max level, but at the same time it provides a very valuable 40% HP damage up and higher stats boost in form of attack and max brave. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you need to unequip Ultima weapon, I would suggest tinkering with your calls instead. Now let's put this all into practice. So we can only have up to 55% HP cap up with Tidus. Ultima weapon already has 40% HP damage limit up at 5 out of 5, but we are not unequipping that. We have around 15% HP cap up to remove, so we will follow my recommendation of which passives to remove first. Going from the top, we will remove the support's armor first. But Quistis is an encouragement type armor and has no party-wide HP cap up, so I have nothing to remove here. If your support has a blue armor, you will usually want to remove them first. Next is the attacker's armor. I actually recrafted the old purple armor for all my Snowverflow BT characters. I am at a point where I have 1k excess of the blue armor token and I have already traded for everyone's purple armor, so I can afford to repurchase some. Once I have this unequipped, I'll have to manually remove the armor passives. The blue armor passive usually has the keyword resonance or brilliance attached to it, so it's this one, while the high armor passive have the word keystone. I want to unequip both of these since they give a total of 25% HP damage limit up. Check out the Tonberry Troupe to find out the values of each character's armor. You can usually find them around the bottom right section of each infographics. With the armor removed, we now only have 40% HP cap up from equipments. Seems enough at a glance, but we are not done yet. There are still force enhancements passives. We have 6 passives that tinker with the character's abilities. 1 for LD, 1 for EX, and 2 for each S1 and S2. For TDS, the EX extension gives an additional 10% HP cap up, so that is fine, no need to unequip this. The LD extension gives 15% HP cap up, so we hit exactly 55% when pressing LD. This is still fine, also don't need to unequip. But the ones for S1 and S2 are different. Each extension will give you 10% HP cap up. So Quick Hit Force extension will give us 10%, while Quick Hit Force extension 2 will give us additional 10%, boosting the HP cap to 60%. That is 5% higher than we can afford to have. But between these two passives, if we can choose, we will want to keep the Force extension 2 passive, because at the end here, we get an additional 5% HP damage bonus during Force time when using this ability. So we will go ahead and remove the first Force extension for both skill 1 and skill 2. And we are good to go. These passives might have different values for different characters. For this video, I will use only TDS as example. Make sure to manually check your own character's Force extensions to see how high of a HP cap up they provide. Now, we re-enter the same fight with our freshly made adjustment. And this is how we know Snowverflow works. During attack, our health bravery could go to high 200 or 300k numbers, and our HP damage will be higher than usual. Quick Hit and Shot are doing about 390k here. So we have successfully enabled Snowverflow. But take a look at that puny damage. We are only 80% done here. Still lots of room for improvements. The HP damage cap for TDS BT with a 5 out of 5 Ultima weapon is 540k. So we have about 150k worth of optimization to go through. Optimization might not always be necessary. If we couple Snowverflow with Force time, we should be able to clear most content already without further tinkering. But let's give it a try just for the sake of experimenting. Here, I have different set of call equipped. Quick Hit and Shot are now hitting for much higher damage, about 100k damage more than the previous setup. And this is the fun part of Snowverflowing for me, damage optimization. Porum and Kit Sith are easy mode, but once we have graduated from them, we can enter a new and even crazier level of damage. Now for a more advanced section, FR versus BT Snowverflow. Because both Force and BT abilities have access to higher HP damage limit, both of them are able to trigger Snowverflow. One thing to note is their different HP cap. Let's take TDS again as an example, still assuming a 5 out of 5 Ultima weapon. FR has a cap of 300%. If we Snowverflow with Force, our HP cap will be raised to around 339k. BT on the other hand, has a HP cap of 500%. If we Snowverflow with it, then our HP cap will be raised to around 539k. These HP caps do interact with each other in that whatever used last will override the previous cap. If you have activated BT Snowverflow, but then you use a Force ability afterwards, your HP cap will drop and you lose about 200k worth of damage. We only need to worry about this for BT characters that have both BT and FR. If you have already activated a BT level Snowverflow and you enter BT phase, you might want to save your Force ability for last, or you can even opt not to use the FR at all if the number of HP dumps are lower than your base skills. Because the moment you do press on FR, your HP cap will be lowered. So here we have a BT level Snowverflow. Quick Hit and Shot are doing 500k. But the moment I activate FR, subsequent HP damage will suffer a loss, since Snowverflow will snapshot the HP damage limit from FR and overwriting our BT cap of 500k. It will drop down to 300k. So this issue can also become awkward if your BT driver is also your FR activator. Ideally, you would want to activate your FR first and then activate BT, and then we get into BT phase. But for some characters, this can mean a lot of wasted turns. Worst case scenario is you would need 5 turns of setup before you can enter BT phase after activating FR, and you waste quite a bit of force time. So there are some ways to get around this. One is to just use a different FR if the team allows it. Second way is to use an FR with an instant turn ability, and this can help reduce setup turn. We can BT immediately after FR, and by the time the character gets a turn again, we have 7 turns left exactly for a BT phase. Third option is to wait until Luna Freya comes out. Her LD ability can grant consecutive turns to characters. And the fourth and easiest way is to just stick with FR level Snowverflow. Depending on the fight, this can be enough to win. So you activate BT very early in the fight, and once your force is full, you go with an FR Snowverflow. Check out my Tidus FR Snowverflow versus his own event. Even without launch, he's able to score 100 million BT phase with an FR level Snowverflow. Tips and tricks. First is HP damage limit from BT aura. When determining your effective HP cap, make sure to always include all active BT auras. Some characters have HP damage limit up tied to their kit. For example, if you are using Machina, he has a 30% HP damage limit up BT effect. If you are using a 5 out of 5 sword in conjunction, then we have a 70% cap up from this alone. This means that 70% becomes your minimum limit, and you will want to work on calls and team setup that allows for Machina to reach this minimum 70% threshold. HP cap up is not always a bad thing, because they tend to come with other supportive buffs. Taking example of Machina again, he comes with a 45% gain and stolen Brave Overflow. Very helpful for Snowverflowing in general. Next is Snow's passives. He has 2 passive of interest. First is HP boost speed up. Sometimes, unequipping his speed passive can make for better turn order during force time. Like shown in the video, I'm able to get back-to-back turns and denying Snow from wasting a force time turn. The second passive to look out for is his LD extension. Snow's preemptive attack has a negative synergy with call duration. Usually, the moment we use a call, the duration will not immediately tick down. But for Snow, while his LD buff is active, the call duration will always go down by 1. It might be a good idea to unequip this passive if you plan on using a 2-turn call on Snow, like Iroha or Kate Sith. And now we've come to my Snowverflow pool plans and the future of the Snowverflow tech. I do plan to Snowverflow every event moving forward at least once, just for the fun of it. And in the near future, my Snowverflow related pools will be Charlotta, Cloud of Darkness, and then Luna Freya. Then maybe I'll pull for Tifa or Rinoa, just to see how crazy their damage can get with Snowverflow. Unfortunately, this tech is not going to last forever. Rumor has it that around Rydia's FR release, that is estimated to be in January next year, the devs will implement a 30% limiter, making Snowverflow literally impossible. I haven't really confirmed its possibility in JP yet myself, since my account there do not have the tools to pull it off, but on paper it does seem impossible. So that's it for the video guide. I'll include a written explanation in the description, so do check it out if you prefer a text version of the guide. If there are any future changes, I'll also update the description. Please hit the like button if you've enjoyed this guide, and I'm getting really close to 3,000 subscribers, so thank you so much everyone for the support. Also shout out to all my members, Ule, A, Fali Rahman and Piki Miki. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!